To Lieutenant General Sir Rowland Hill, 23rd of July, 1812. My dear Hill, I write to let you know we beat Marshal Marmont's army yesterday evening near Salamanca, and they are now in full retreat and we are following them. Our loss has not been severe, I believe, in men. Marshal Bereford, Generals Leith, Cole and Victor Allen are wounded. General Le Marchand killed. Sir Stapleton Cotton was likewise wounded last night by a shot from one of our own sentries, who took him for one of the enemy. We have taken a good many prisoners and cannon, and above 3,000 of the former, and I should think 20 of the latter, and I understand 2 eagles. All the troops behaved admirably. Believe me, and etc. Wellington.
To Earl Bathurst, Flores de Avila, 24th of July, 1812. My Lord, my aide-de-camp, Captain Lord Clinton, will present to your Lordship this account of a victory which the Allied troops under my command gained in a general action fought near Salamanca on the evening of the 22nd instant, which I have been under the necessity of delaying to send till now, having been engaged ever since the action in pursuit of the enemy's flying troops. In my letter of the 21st, I informed your Lordship that both armies were near Tormes, and the enemy crossed that river with the greatest part of his troops in the afternoon by the fords between Alba de Tormes and Huerta, and moved by their left towards the roads leading to Ciudad Rodrigo. The Allied army, with the exception of the 3rd Division and General de Urban's cavalry, likewise crossed the Tormes in the evening by the bridge of Salamanca and the fords in the neighbourhood, and I placed the troops in a position of which the right was upon one of the 2 heights called Dos Arapiles, and the left on Tormes below the ford of Santa Marta. During the night of the 21st, the enemy had taken possession of the village of Calvarasa de Arriba and of the heights near it called Nuestra Senora de la Peña, our cavalry being in possession of the Calvarasa de Abajo, and shortly after daylight, detachments from both armies attempted to obtain possession of the more distant from our right of the 2 hills called Dos Arapiles. The enemy, however, succeeded, their detachments being strongest and having been concealed in the woods nearer the hill than we were, by which success they strengthened materially their own position and had in their power increased means of annoying ours. In the morning, the light troops of the 7th Division and the 4th Cazadores, belonging to General Pack's brigade, were engaged with the enemy on the height called Nuestra Senora de la Peña, on which height they maintained themselves with the enemy throughout the day. The possession by the enemy, however, of the more distant of the Arapiles rendered it necessary for me to extend the right of the army en potence to the height behind the village of Arapiles, and to occupy that village with light infantry. And here I placed the 4th Division under command of Lieutenant General the Honourable L. Cole. After a variety of evolutions and movements, the enemy appears to have determined upon his plan about 2 in the afternoon, and under cover of a very heavy cannonade, which, however, did us but very little damage, he extended his left, apparently with an intention to embrace, by the position of his troops and by his fire, our post on that of the 2 Arapiles, which he possessed, and from thence to attack and break our line, or at all events to render difficult any movement of ours to our right. The extension of this line to his left, however, and its advance upon our right, notwithstanding that his troops still occupied very strong ground, and his position was well defended by cannon, gave me an opportunity of attacking him, for which I had long been anxious. I reinforced our right with the 5th Division under Lieutenant General Leith, which I placed behind the village of Arapiles on the right of the 4th Division, and with the 6th and 7th Divisions in reserve. And as soon as these troops had taken their station, I ordered Major General the Honourable E. Pakenham to move forward with the 3rd Division and General de Urban's cavalry, and 2 squadrons of the 14th Light Dragoons under Lieutenant Colonel Hervey, in 4 columns to turn the enemy's left on the heights, while Brigadier General Bradford's brigade, the 5th Division under Lieutenant General Leith, and the 4th Division under Lieutenant General the Honourable L. Cole, and the cavalry under Lieutenant General Sir Stapleton Cotton should attack them in front, supported in reserve by the 6th Division under Major General Clinton, the 7th under Major General Hope, and Don Carlos de España's Spanish Division, and Brigadier General Pack should support the left of the 4th Division by attacking that of the Dos Arapiles, which the enemy held. The 1st and Light Divisions occupied the ground on the left and were in reserve. The attack upon the enemy's left was made in the manner above described and completely succeeded. Major General the Honourable Edward Pakenham formed the 3rd Division across the enemy's flank and overthrew everything opposed to him. These troops were supported in the most gallant style by the Portuguese cavalry under Brigadier General de Urban and Lieutenant Colonel Hervey's squadrons of the 14th, who successfully defeated every attempt made by the enemy on the flank of the 3rd Division. Brigadier General Bradford's brigade, the 5th and 4th Divisions, and the cavalry under Lieutenant General Sir Stapleton Cotton attacked the enemy in front and drove his troops before them, one height to another, bringing forward their right so as to acquire strength upon the enemy's flank in proportion to the advance. Brigadier General Pack made a very gallant attack on the Arapiles, in which, however, he did not succeed, excepting in diverting the attention of the enemy's corps placed upon it from the troops under command of Lieutenant General Cole in his advance. The cavalry under Lieutenant General Sir Stapleton Cotton made a most gallant and successful charge against a body of the enemy's infantry, which they overthrew and cut to pieces. In this charge, Major General Marmont was killed at the head of his brigade, and I have to regret the loss of a most able officer. After the crest of the height was carried, one division of the enemy's infantry made a stand against the 4th Division, which after a severe contest was obliged to give way, in consequence of the enemy having thrown some troops on the left of the 4th Division after the failure of Brigadier General Pack's attack on the Arapiles, and Lieutenant General the Hon. L. Cole having been wounded. Marshal Sir William Beresford, who happened to be on the spot, directed Brigadier General Spry's brigade of the 5th Division, which was in the 2nd line, to charge its front, and to bring its fire on the flank of the enemy's division. I am sorry to add that while engaged in this service, he received a wound which, I am apprehensive, will deprive me of the benefit of his counsel and assistance for some time. Nearly about the same time, Lieutenant General Leith received a wound which unfortunately obliged him to quit the field. I ordered up the 6th Division under Major General Clinton to relieve the 4th, and the battle was soon restored to its former success. The enemy's right, however, reinforced by the troops which had fled from its left, and by those which had now retired from the Arapiles, still continued to resist, and I ordered the 1st and Light Divisions and Colonel Stubbs' Portuguese brigade of the 4th Division, which was reformed, and Major General William Anson's brigade likewise of the 4th Division, to turn the right, while the 6th Division, supported by the 3rd and 5th, attacked in front. It was dark before this point was carried by the 6th Division, and the enemy fled through the woods towards Tormes. I pursued them with the 1st and Light Divisions, and Major General William Anson's brigade of the 4th Division, and some squadrons of cavalry under Lieutenant General Sir Stapleton Cotton, as long as they would find any of them together, directing our march upon Huerta and the fords of the Tormes, by which the enemy had passed in their advance. But the darkness of the night was highly advantageous to the enemy, many of whom escaped under its cover, who must otherwise have been in our hands. I am sorry to report that owing to the same cause, Lieutenant General Sir Stapleton Cotton was unfortunately wounded by one of our own sentries after we halted. It is impossible to form a conjecture of the amount of the enemy's loss in this action, but from all reports it is very considerable. We have taken from them 11 pieces of cannon, several ammunition wagons, 2 eagles, and 6 Calais, and 1 general, 3 colonels, 3 lieutenant colonels, 130 officers of inferior rank, and between 6,000 and 7,000 soldiers are prisoners, and our detachments are sending in more at every moment. The number of dead on the field is very large. I am informed that Marshal Marmont is badly wounded and has lost one of his arms, and that 4 general officers have been killed and several wounded. Such an advantage could not have been acquired without material loss on our side, but it certainly has not been of a magnitude to distress the army or to cripple its operations. I have the honour to be, and etc., Wellington.
Marshal Marmont to Joseph Bonaparte, Arevalo, on the 25th of July, 1812. I have the honour of giving an account to your Majesty of the events which took place before my arrival on the Douro, and of the motives which led me thither. Having increased my artillery and cavalry, and joined by General Bonnet's division, I set about to resume the offensive. The enemy who had followed me in my movements sought to gain possession of the tablelands on which depended the security of my operation, but he failed, and we manoeuvred under constant cannonade from each other's artillery. This sort of operation is the only one which is good against the English, who have a peculiar talent for taking up positions, and whom therefore it is advisable to thwart by preventing them as much as possible, before entering into such action, from establishing themselves as they wish to do so. On the 20th, the enemy moved from the strong position on San Cristobal. On the 21st, I effected a passage of the Tormes, after having taken possession of the bridge of Alba. The army placed itself between Alba de Tormes and Salamanca, at the entrance of the woods. On the night of the 21st, the English army passed the Tormes and placed itself in position opposite me at a distance of 3/4 of a league. I made a reconnaissance at daybreak and passed the morning in making my dispositions, first with a view of preparing a good defence, and secondly with that of attacking if circumstances should appear favourable. Everything promised well. I thought it necessary to occupy a tableland which completed our system of defence, and at the same time would be very useful in case we should act upon the offensive, on which I had almost determined. I caused it to be occupied by the 5th Division and the reserve of horse artillery, with strict orders to confine themselves to taking possession of the tableland. As it was possible that the enemy, when he saw that we were masters of it, would attack before it had become time to collect all of my forces, I directed 2 divisions to draw near as a support. General Marcoun broke and drove off the English detachment which occupied the heights. Up to that time, we had nothing but success, and everything promised that it would be complete. I thought it necessary to bring up fresh troops to act with vigour in support of General Marcoun, and to crush the enemy, who were assembling his forces. I immediately collected together all the troops at my disposal, and I was proceeding to leave them, and to take the immediate command of this part of the battle, when, by a cruel accident at the moment of my presence was most required, a round of grape shot threw me over, shattering my right arm and inflicting 2 severe wounds in my side, thus rendering me incapable of taking any part in the command. The anarchy consequent upon this accident, and the wound of General Bonnet next into my command as the General Senior of Division, who was struck a few instants afterwards, prevented the execution of my orders, so that General Marcoun, notwithstanding the brilliant successes which he had obtained, was forced by superior numbers to retire. The troops which came to his assistance, performing prodigies of valour, but acting without concert, were also forced to retreat. At length, sire, the army, having maintained the combat for 3 hours, quitted the field of battle. General Clausel, who was in command, has judged it necessary to recross the Tormes and will take position on the right bank of the Lesma and the Douro. The condition in which I am obliges me to offer your Majesty a very brief report. As soon as I can, I shall have the honour of entering into fuller details upon this event, which illustrates but too forcibly the caprices of fortune and the dissipation of the most flattering hopes by sad realities. The army has to regret the loss of a considerable number of officers of every rank. The generals Ferrez Tomer and Desgreva have fallen, and General Men is wounded, as is General Clausel, but slightly. We estimate our loss at nearly 5,000 men. That of the English must be greater, as I can hardly describe the mischief which was done to them by our artillery.